Dear participants, dear colleagues, dear partners, dear friends, it's my enormous pleasure to welcome you all in the name of the Heinrich Böll Foundation to the European Youth Congress. Regain or retreat, European youth in an age of uncertainty. This is already the 5th edition of the Congress, one of our flagship projects. After its inauguration in Berlin 2013, it has been traveling from our offices in Thessaloniki via Budapest to Belgrade. Next year, it might be my colleague Paris or Prague who will welcome you to the 6th one. During these meetings, we have discussed alternatives for building a more social and just, democratic and ecological Europe. This year, we are happy to host around 90 young participants at about 20 distinguished speakers from NGOs and civic initiatives, progressive parties and the media. Thanks to our network of European offices, you come from more than 25 different countries, big and small, north and south, east and west, from Portugal to Ukraine, from Finland to Greece and Turkey. It is a colorful picture I'm looking at. So many of you are active in green movements, support civic initiatives for helping refugees and social inclusion, or advocate women's rights. This is also a result of our efficient cooperation through our European department and our headquarters in Berlin, and especially his head, Sergej Lagodinsky. Sergej, thank you for being with us here today. You will have the honor to listen to him tomorrow on our populism panel. Welcome. This profound European dimension of the Youth Congress is guaranteed to a wide extent thanks to our partner, the European Green Foundation, JEF, that has been trustfully with us from the very beginning. I'm happy and thankful for the great collaboration with Joanna Banach, who will address you in a moment, and Reinhard Bütikofer, representing the board of JEF and opening our debate after this opening ceremony. But most important, I would like to emphasize that the European Youth Congress has been such a success story because we realize it together with our very strong local partners. The European Solidarity Center, in whose magnificent building we are right now in, is a historical landmark in itself and one of our most trusted partners here in Poland. It was the first institution I could think of when searching for a venue for this Congress. Basel Kerski, thank you very much for hosting us here today, and also especially to your great team, namely Anna Fedders. Is she here with us now? Thank you for this great cooperation. It's always a pleasure to work with you. I'm also extremely happy to welcome a very special guest today, and this is our new president of the Heinrich Böll Foundation, Ellen Überscher. Following the old tradition of German and recent one of US presidents, for her first foreign visit, she has come to Poland. Great choice. Especially in such challenging times, with Poland being one of the countries currently undergoing profound political conflict and stress, I think this is a very good symbolical sign. Thank you. When looking at Ellen's biography, it quickly becomes clear why she decided to accept our invitation. When in the age of most of our participants here today, she herself was an active member of Eastern Germany's democratic opposition. She knows that you, young Europeans, most clearly see the challenges ahead of us and are genuinely interested in shaping our common world. For the last 10 years, Ellen was heading the German Protestant Church Assembly, where one of the last things she did in office was introducing Obama to 80,000 people in Berlin to discuss civic engagement and responsibility in the face of global challenge. But now she's here with us. Thank you once again, Ellen, for coming here. Welcome to Poland. Hope to see you here regularly. Zapraszamy. Before I pass on the word to Basel Kerski, who will welcome us here as the host of the event, I will just have a minimum number of technical remarks. As a Green Foundation, we have tried to keep the amount of paper materials as an absolute minimum. Therefore, most of information about the event and the organizers you will find on the USB pen drive you received. Of crucial importance is the hashtag EYC 2017PL that you can see on the walls, on your conference materials and the like. We would like to invite you to use it as much as possible on Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media you use. This is also refers to the panels and workshops. If time might sometimes be limited to place all your remarks, please post them on the Facebook event page of the Congress for further use. We have all signed up for your workshop groups ahead of the Congress. They give you the opportunity to learn how to tell engaging stories with new technologies, explore ways by which education can foster green activism, and get to know examples of immigrants' integration in practice. I'm already eager to hear about your experiences and working results of the next 3 days on Wednesday afternoon. Besides the 3 workshop groups, there's also the 4 comfy groups. Each of you has been assigned to a specific group with your own mentor, which is marked by the colors green, yellow, blue, and red of your identification badge. So please all have a look at what colors you have. Your mentors will not only take care of your trips to the dinner venues, hand out public transport tickets to you and the like, but they are also there for you to reflect your thoughts, experiences, and so on. So, last but not least, one special thing. There's one person without whom all of this would have not been possible, and this is Gerd Röhrbrum. Where are you, Gerd? Gerd. Gerd is our program manager for democracy and human rights. His tireless efforts on all levels, intellectual inspiring, organizational skills is a great help to our organization. And this all because in any minute we are waiting for his second baby to come. So Gerd, thank you. Please help me thanking Gerd for doing this all so we can be here today. So I wish you really great 3 days, great experiences. Thank you once again. Welcome now to Basil Kerski. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants of the European Youth Congress, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you. It's a privilege to take part in this conference and to listen to your discussions, debate in the next days. I'm very grateful also for the cooperation with the Heinrich Böll Foundation, with the European Green Foundation, and I'm very grateful to welcome not only Mrs. Überscher. It's the best place to start your responsibility for the foundation, but I'm very grateful also to welcome very warmly the Vice President of Gdańsk, Wiesław Bielawski. Welcome. He's one of the hosts as an initiator of this house. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, you have seen probably the message, Europe starts here at the entrance of this building. This message is connected with the program European Heritage Label. This program, initiated by the European Commission, promotes sites that are milestones in the creation of today's Europe. Nearly 30 places, from the heart of ancient Athens to this here, to the Gdańsk, to the former Gdańsk shipyard, are symbolizing sources of European democratic tradition. Our institution, representing the historic Gdańsk shipyard, has been awarded with the European Heritage Label because it commemorates the history of Solidarność, solidarity, a peaceful movement that started in 1980 to democratize Poland and to change the political order of our continent. The heart of this building is a permanent exhibition about the Solidarity Revolution, about the history of communism and democratic opposition in Poland. Some of you had the opportunity, the chance to visit our exhibition. Please take other opportunities to see this permanent exhibition, because it's worth to emphasize that it's not only focused on Polish history, it is also dedicated to all democratic movements in the former Soviet bloc, and it documents anti-communist revolutions in Central and Eastern Europe. It is worth to emphasize that the European Solidarity Center, an institution financed by the Polish taxpayers, promotes not only the Polish democratic tradition, but also the history of the anti-communist opposition in our neighbor nations. This European perspective of our institution is quite a unique one in times when we are focused on the promotion of our own national heritage, creating, I would say, monologues, and tend not to be really interested in any international dialogue. The ECS is an ambitious project also for a further reason. The vision of the founders, especially the mayor of Gdańsk, was not only to enclose the heritage of Solidarność in a traditional museum. Their aspiration was to make the ECS a central European agora, a meeting place for citizens who feel responsible for the development of democracy in Europe. We are in a place where history meets the future. Our institution cultivates memory and caters for the quality of our modern democracy. We pose difficult questions to ourselves. Are we a solidarity society today? Are we concentrated only on our national interests, or are we European team player? How stable is our democracy? How tolerant is our society? Are we investing in peaceful relationships with our neighbors? In our activities, we are guided by the conviction that new national egoisms inside the EU, caused by the fear of globalization, along with effects of years of economic crisis, became a big challenge for Europe. Not only Brexit is the expression of the short-sighted, selfish attitudes, it's also the lack of European solidarity with migrants, especially in my home country here, and with those European countries who have taken on most of the burden of help for the refugees. European solidarity, so crucial to the European Union's policy, loses its credibility. The migration challenges has shown how many European countries today have a problem in combining national interests with a European common good. The EU is not only struggling with the effects of the financial and economical crisis, but also with the understanding of European policy. The reluctance to combine national, regional, and European perspectives together with an inability to translate the principle of subsidiarity to the challenges of our time are a heavy burden for Europe today. The European Union can no longer limit itself to an economic community. It has to become also a cultural project. I personally believe that Christian values are an important source from which we can draw upon as we build a common home of a multicultural Europe. No matter if we are people of religion or not. I'm personally not a Catholic. I'm coming from an Iraqi family, multicultural family. I'm not traditionally connected with Christian heritage, but I feel and I'm responsible, I'm convinced that it's a fundamental basis for our European reflection. So no matter if we are people of religion or not, we should not run away from the Christian tradition because it is related to the attitude of hospitality, understood as a hospitality to another. The 21st century is not only a time of great migration, but also a great test of empathy and dialogue with the other. The European home will only be stable if we, Europeans, will understand the benefits of hospitality. Thank you for your attention. I hope you will feel the hospitality of my team, of our team, of the ECS in the next days. And I hope that this conference will strengthen our European ties. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. Dear participants, dear guests, I would like to begin by thanking our hosts for organizing this beautiful event. My name is Joanna Banach. I represent the Green European Foundation. And I would like to tell you that yesterday I spent more than 2 hours together with my husband walking through the exhibition that most of you got to see this morning. And what I found interesting was that when we exited the exhibition, both of us had the immediate same 2 reflections, and I'm going to share those with you. The first reflection was that we all are still in the process of learning from history. Indeed, as it was already mentioned, every day refugees are drowning in the sea on the way to a Europe of freedom. However, even those who make it to Europe, they face a lot of discrimination and at times have to live in inhuman conditions. By the way, behind me you can see a wonderful project initiated by HBS together with the photographer Marta Bogdanska. Please have a look during the break. At the same time, we look at Europe and we see the rise of authoritarian regimes. We see that basic principles of democracy and freedom are still challenged today, 28 years after the fall of communism. Increased Eurosceptic voices at the same time, at national level, but also within the European institutions, are challenging the future and even the very nature of our European Union. However, there is a second reflection we also had, which is a bit of a more positive one. And that is that citizens can organize themselves. Young citizens like you, like me, can organize themselves in order to fight for their freedoms and reclaim them. Lech Wałęsa was in his 30s, I was thinking, when he started Solidarność. And a lot of the movement's supporters and members were actually young people like yourselves. Today, the number of citizens, grassroots movements, and civil society organizations mobilizing to promote social justice and renew democracy is increasing. And many of these movements are driven by young people. Again, like you and like myself. At the Green European Foundation, which is a political foundation funded by the European Parliament, we work together with our European partners, the Greens in European Parliament, the Euro-Green Party, the Federation of Young European Greens, in a common belief that enthusiastic activists are the driving force for a Europe of solidarity. Together with them and with national foundations, we organize trainings, seminars, publications such as the Green European Journal, and we aim to create a space for all of us to meet, debate, and create our own vision of Europe, the future of Europe, and our place and role within this future. It is because of all this that we are a partner year after year in the European Youth Conference, as this is a place where we enter into dialogue with each other. We support each other's growth, cross borders and across cultures. Our role of partner, as was mentioned, is to promote the European dimension, which is why I'm so pleased to see so many countries represented in this room. On top of this, if we look at the program, if we look at the trainers and the facilitators, the speakers, I have no doubt that this will be for each and one of you a truly European experience. So on behalf of the Green European Foundation, allow me to wish you 3 days of transformative experiences driven by solidarity and collaboration with each other. I look forward to exchanging with each and one of you. We will have 3 workshops from the Green European Foundation. We have also a stand with publications outside that you can visit during the breaks. And of course, we have plenty of chances doing informal moments to exchange with each other. Thank you.
And now I have the honor to welcome you to our first panel, Positive Vision in Difficult Times. During this discussion with Reinhard Bütikofer and Barbara Nowacka, who I cordially invite to come on stage and sit down in this very comfy-looking black chairs. Barbara Nowacka, one of the most well-known progressive Polish politicians and feminist activist who is much respected for her ability to form political platforms across party lines. Recently most praised for being one of the head leading figures in the famous Black protest last year. For that engagement, she was nominated by Foreign Affairs, one of the world-leading women in 2016. So great to have you here with us today. Thank you, Barbara.
My pleasure.
And Reinhard Bütikofer, currently member of the European Parliament and co-chair of the Green European Party, but also one of the most experienced and most important politicians of the Green German movement we ever had. So, Reinhard, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us here today. Welcome. Do I take this? Okay. Sorry. So, when living in difficult, challenging times, we look out for helpful experiences and positive visions. Today, many people, although not illiberal per se minded or anti-democratic, are for one or another reason unsatisfied with the effectiveness of our political systems, the elites who represent them, the possibilities of citizens to influence them. The debates on how to change the situation, how to respond to these requests, has been going on for many years, now with green activists and progressive politicians having constantly been on the forefront of those discourses. This situation in an age of uncertainty is also reflected in the state the European Union is in. The European Commission itself has presented several possible scenarios for the future of Europe, thereby taking an active part in consultations on what efficient democratic reform could look like. As we sit here, different ideas are being discussed in different member states on how to tackle those challenges with an unclear outcome, part of which may be a progression of Europe in different speeds. I'm eager to hear from my two distinguished guests what drives Europe forward in your eyes? What is and what should European solidarity be about today? If the old narratives of an integrated Europe of peace and prosperity does not seem to appeal to the millennials anymore, how could or should the European narrative be reinvented? Do we have new ones already, like stability or security? Or are there other keywords you would think of? Reinhard, I actually would like to start with the big picture. You coming from the supranational heart of Europe, from Brussels. What is your positive vision in those difficult times?
First of all, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share this panel with Barbara. Really, the title of this conference doesn't stand up at a venue like this. I mean, regain or retreat is not really a question. If you sit at a place where so many people demonstrated in a way that will never be forgotten, that you can regain hope even against the odds. So clearly, retreat is not an option. But of course, the question is how to regain and how to understand why we have to regain, why we're not winning already. I believe that even though the European project is one of the greatest endeavors ever to come up with a transnational effort at reconciling contradictions between neighbors and creating a peaceful and sustainable way forward based also on the principle of solidarity. Obviously, the European Union has not delivered on all its promises for all its citizens. So my first point would be that there is amply good reason for being critical and saying we have to change. For instance, internally, all our societies are more deeply divided today than they would have been, let's say, 10 years ago. Justice is more in retreat than all of us would like to see. And while on one hand, the European Union was also built to create an answer to the unruly and undomesticated forces of globalization, to create a space where citizens would align to collectively protect each other, it hasn't quite turned out that way for many. And I believe that we have to go back to the principles and critique and change what has been wrong in that regard. Presently, even though we are in difficult times, I strongly feel that there is a lot of reason for optimism and a lot of reason for a positive attitude. I really sense a sea change in the attitude of many people around Europe over the European project. And this has happened over the last year, I would say. It has happened under the impact of the Brexit referendum in the UK and under the impact of the election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States. Basically, what these two events have achieved doing is they have made visible what this European dream is about. There is a relatively well-known quote from Bertolt Brecht, a German poet, who once wrote that evil becomes invisible if it grows very large. I think you can say the same thing about good things. If they grow very large, people take them for granted and don't really value what they are worth. I think that those two major events have taught us, all of us, a lesson about what it's worth and why it's worth fighting for this perspective. And of course, the motivation, the willingness to look for new solutions is the prerequisite of any new achievements. We used to have a crisis narrative around Europe that would always see a crisis also as an opportunity to come up with new ideas. Over the last 10 years during the crisis, this crisis narrative has been superseded with a new attitude that I would just call declinism. A lot of people felt that we were out of wits. We had done everything we could ever do. There was no new approach, no new opening. And I think this we're overcoming at this moment. And people are feeling that there is an opportunity. And very importantly, this is not just happening between decision makers, between intellectual elites. It's happening in the streets. We saw it when all around Europe, over just a very short period of time, demonstrations started happening every Sunday at 2 under the label of Pulse of Europe, and just ordinary citizens went there to express their willingness to get involved with their own public affairs. We see this here in Poland. We saw it with the Czarny protest, we see it today and yesterday and these days, how people really stand up. We saw it in Romania. We see it in so many countries. And this is the basis for hope. And I believe we will build a European Union through a lot of struggles that will be founded on what we have achieved, but will certainly not stand still, because our neighborhood changes, the global relations change, and I would describe my hope for the European Union well, basically 4 elements. I think the European Union should continue to be a place that cherishes and respects diversity. This is at the core of European identity. Europe should also be a place that protects its citizens, and protection includes social relations, but it also includes security internally and externally. The European Union should be a place that empowers citizens. That is not a bureaucratic apparatus that does stuff instead of the people, but facilitates self-rule, self-government. And fourthly, I would think the European Union should be a place where we lead with the economic transformation that we are all in need of and that we owe to future generations and the whole world.
Thank you, Reinhard, very much for your input. So, Poland is in difficult times, it has been mentioned. Some. From a Polish perspective, Barbara, and now, what is your positive vision for those difficult times?
Well, first of all, there are positive things going on. As you might have seen, especially those of you who just came to Poland and are not living there, for last few days we were protesting on the streets to fight for protection of juridical system. And half an hour ago, President put veto on 3 out of 2 bad bills. Pressure makes sense. Civil society is a powerful key player in the society. We didn't win the war, but we won important battle. And this is the second battle that civil society won with right-wing extremists, right-wing government. First battle we won was a battle for, again, protecting fundamental rights of women. We didn't make a change, but we managed to protect kind of system. Secondly, just today, so this is kind of positive thing, positive message I'm bringing to you, that change is happening. It's not happening in the conference rooms, it's not happening in parliament, unfortunately, at the moment. But in difficult times, streets, again, are decision makers, as it was in the 80s in Poland, as it was in many other countries of European Union, of present European Union for years. We have a power as a citizens, as a people. And this is a very important thing to remember. And difficult times, I think for progressives, even more difficult times were when status quo was accepted, when we were not discussing about European Union at all. We were accepting, well, we, citizens, were accepting everything that was said. Neoliberal reforms, reduction of public services that took place for many years, for last decades or 2 in European Union. Less access to free education, less access to public services and hospitals, and people were not protesting. When right-wingers, far-right, and neoliberals grew and really endangered freedoms, we we are questioning the system. We are also questioning the rules that were internal rules of European Union. Citizens are not taking European Union for granted, but unchangeable as well, but start to have a feeling that there are changes that we can do and we have to do if European Union will be again important for all of us. At the moment, I have doubts that for many citizens of EU is important. Many of them got used to. From Polish perspective, it's a little bit different because many of us were living more than half of life, which is my experience, not being a part of European Union. I was born in communist times, then I grew up in a country that suffered from neoliberal reforms, and the European Union for us was a dream of prosperity, stability, peace and development. What we got? We got a bit of prosperity for some of us. We got security, yes, that we got. We do feel more secure than 20 years ago. We got some freedoms, but still some of them were seen from a distance. For example, Poland is not a secular state. Poland is not a state that gives really equal rights to men and women. But to be honest, in the majority of European countries, you can say the same. This equality is not guaranteed as much as it should be. And society changed. 20 years ago, sexist comments were a normal part of public political life. At the moment, majority of millennials would either turn off the telly or would switch the channel in the YouTube because they don't accept this language. This is a change that happened in society. The institutions, authorities, elites are still back in dual 20th century, whereas 21st century is at the moment in the society. And this is the challenge for European Union, to be ready for 21st century. At the moment, we are still in the same conditions we were when Poland was joining EU, and it needs reforms, and it needs progressive reforms. My main difficulty with future of European Union is that I believe that European Union has a great prosperity. But what I'm afraid is that it's not for all the countries that are at the moment part of European Union. That Europe of many states means Europe of many dimensions, which will construct the Eurozone, a very strong group with community, with values, with equal rights, with justice, maybe with social justice as well, with protection of environment, and the buffer countries around. And we here most likely will be in this second category, second dimension going backwards, dimension that is just a labor market and cheap labor force. Whereas human rights can be questioned by right-wingers. But we'll fight not to make this happen. And what we need for this, we need solidarity. You mentioned you mentioned about new words that are needed. Security, yes, of course. Hope, again, very important thing. We are living in the times where right-wingers are using fear to divide the society. We are divided because they are using fear against immigrants, women, foreigners, strangers, everyone. What we would need is a solidarity and also a strong message from citizens of Europe, from also political parties and important players in the European Union, that countries like Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, are still part of community. We lost the word that was constructing European Union for many years. It was the word community. Now we are talking about union. Union is important for countries. Community is important for citizens. And if we would work on a very local level with local initiatives on community, Polish society and societies like Hungarian, Estonian, and the others will still feel that they are needed, important, and there is a hope for us. And then we'll have more energy to change also European Union for better. We know where we have to change this. We just need an encouragement and power, and a hope that we will change Europe also for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those hopeful words. Let me go one step further into details when it comes down to the role of Europe and the European Union. I will have one more question before I will open up to you to place your comments, remarks, questions to our special guests here today. So, as you have also already mentioned, Barbara, most of the current proposals for reforming EU integration within the general discourse about flexible Europe are actually targeting the Eurozone. This means for non-EU member states as Poland that they soon may have to decide in that very crucial moment in order to not lose end, to be part of the decision-making processes, as you said, and not to be pushed aside to the periphery. So we know that Poland, for example, belongs to the countries where we have still very positive attitudes towards the EU, almost 80%, but at the same time very strongly opposing the monetary union. About 75% here in Poland are afraid of entering to the Eurozone. So I will again start with our European perspective, Reinhard, to explain from maybe this Brussels view how to argue for what is at stake, how to argue to the people, to push governments, particular member states, EU citizens, how to move further in this crucial moment.
I believe that we're at a moment where we can indeed expect new developments to be broken. For instance, in Brussels, almost everybody is of the opinion that after the German election in September, there would be a new Franco-German initiative between President Macron and whoever will head the German government, most probably, as it looks today, Mrs. Merkel again, that would inject some new energy into the development of a European future. Now, for years, we've been complaining that the Franco-German axis, as it's been called, has not delivered any dynamic. Now that it's about to try doing that, people start saying, oh, should we be afraid of it? I mean, if you define yourself as somebody who's sitting on the sidelines watching, most probably you will not be very relevant in deciding how the game is going to be played. You have to try to get onto the field and be an actor. And even though I oppose the perspective that Barbara has just also criticized, the perspective of a two-speed Europe, where one part of Europe would be the core and the rest would be relegated to the role of periphery. I also challenge those who restrict themselves to this criticism, because I feel that it's also their responsibility to help us change the dynamic. It's by no means a given that the only motor of future development will be between France and Germany. Last time that worked, the EU had far fewer members. And I don't believe that you just can't sort of do time traveling and go back to where Helmut Kohl and François Mitterrand had a great relationship or whatever. That's not going to happen. So I believe there should be, of course, on the part of the actors in Brussels and Paris and Berlin, a willingness to include others as equal partners. But there also has to be, of course, an initiative from the other actors to play a role. And presently, I would not be satisfied with just stating that a huge majority of the Polish public is opposed to joining the euro. I would openly challenge whether that's a wise position. And I would openly argue that maybe Poland should discuss about the conditionalities for making a Polish access to the euro worthwhile perspective. There will be flexibility, certainly. And I don't think that flexibility as such is a bad thing. For instance, we're presently introducing a new institution, it's called a European prosecutor, that is designed to prosecute crimes against the European budget, where corruption would waste public money. Poland and all the other new members are joining the effort. The Dutch are not, and some of the Western countries are not. So it's not a given that any of those flexible arrangements would exclude the Eastern countries. And the Eastern countries should not sit back and feel sort of under pressure. They should play an active role. But certainly, there will be an increasing understanding that the EU as is not up to all its challenges. Either we try together moving it forward, or we will all fail. As Thomas Jefferson said in the early days of the revolution, either we all hang together or we will all hang separately. That applies also to our countries. And I do believe that there is an opportunity because the European Parliament is an active force. The European Commission is not the servant of Berlin and Paris. And we should help finding new goals, for instance, with regard to solidarity. The European Commission has put forward a reflection paper on the social pillar of Europe. This is the first time in many years that they have seen themselves forced to enter upon a discussion of that. Are we up to the task of picking up this discussion, this conversation, and proposing our own ideas? Or are we just waiting what's happening from some capitals? I believe that there is going to be an enormous pressure from the outside on getting our act together and acting more in unison. Economically, politically, security-wise, in many different dimensions. And Europe will not be successful if it just confines itself to the internal squabbles and quarrels. We will not be able to defend our ideals and our interests in the world of today and tomorrow if we don't try doing that together. And that implies stronger cooperation. And of course, this stronger cooperation comes in different forms. It can come as intragovernmental cooperation that would weaken European democracy, if that was all. It could also come according to the community method, which includes democratic responsibility. Give you an example. People talk about a European finance minister. If I listen to what Mr. Schäuble says, then the finance minister is under control of Berlin and maybe half control of Paris. I think we should have a European finance minister, but he should be, or she should be, responsible to the European Parliament. This is the kind of battles that we have to fight. And I think a reluctancy to really integrate more will only help those forces that may see a need to get our act together, but would do it in a way that would weaken democracy in our nation states and on the European level. So that's why I also think it's important to invite, in particular, the Visegrad countries and Poland, which should be a leader in the EU, while presently it's certainly anything but a real leader. And it should be our common conversation how we can make this happen.
Exactly. Barbara. The question about, flexible Europe, Eurozone. How does it look like for Polish politicians? I mean, of which should your fellow citizen be convinced in order for Poland to play a decisive role in those discussions?
First of all, I think I'm in a minority of Polish politicians that believe that being a part of Eurozone will be important for our security. Majority of Polish politicians would question the position of being pro-Euro. A majority of our politicians were afraid to join Eurozone, and I'm not surprised why, especially when we saw the crisis of Eurozone. But on the other hand, Euro, it's not only the question of economy, it's also a question of security. And living in difficult times, especially having a difficult eastern neighbor. For our security, Euro would be part of solution of being more secure, just like this. Economically, still many doubts. Those doubts were never seriously taken by governments, and no matter if it were conservatives or right-wingers, they were always opposing Euro because they knew it's not popular and they would need to spend a lot of public money to convince people to join Eurozone. Not necessarily effectively. Flexibility usually sounds nice. I remember great discussion about flexibility in the labor market that was about to help mothers to be active professionally and stay with kids same time. Though it ended up with lack of security for everyone, starting with mothers with small kids, ending with elderly people. Then we heard a lot about flexi-security. Very nice wording, meant absolutely nothing, unfortunately, in reality of young people seeking their jobs in the labor market. So we are skeptical towards the proposition of flexible integration. Well, at the moment, concerning women rights, we have a flexibility. In some countries, you cannot buy a day after pill, like Poland, without the prescription of a doctor. Well, it's a flexibility, isn't it? In some countries, women cannot decide upon their bodies and their reproductive rights. And in the other countries, they are free to choose what they want. In some countries, flexibility says that you can marry a person you love. In some countries, flexibility says that you can marry the person you love, of course, if this person is the other gender than you are. Like in Poland, we don't even have a civil partnership. If we talk about our dreams, one of the dreams of European Union was freedom, but also equality. And now we are not equal. We are not equal in the labor market. And I know it's a much difficult task to be equal on the labor market, having different economies, than to be equal in the fundamental values. But let's start with fundamental values. Let's start with really equality and justice for all people. Let's start with equal chances on the education market. It's getting better and better, but still in some countries, you will have more religion classes, again, Poland, than, for example, mathematics, physics, and biology together. It's not very helpful then for our younger generation to be competitive on the labor market. So I'm afraid when I hear about flexibility, because we faced reality many times. And I know it's the task of citizens of the countries that are not participating in the process of integration. And I know that we failed. I know that we lost the elections. All of us remember this loss of elections from 2015 as one of the most important things that happened during the last 25 years. There is no left-wing party in the parliament. The most progressive party is neoliberal party. Then we have conservatives rule right-wing and far-right. And there is nearly no one to fight for European integration. There are people fighting for European subsidies. There are people fighting for European laws, but for European integration, not so many. And this is our role of civil society, to convince more and more citizens to be pro-European, but not pro-European in the sense that we like Europe as it is. Pro-European in questioning European Union, pro-European in giving positive answers. And just a small commercial, I think in October we'll start civil initiative to change European laws to give equal access to contraceptives to women in all European countries. We would need 1 million of signatures. And I think this is a proposal, positive proposal, how to change Europe and European law, to give, to be active, to give proposals and to fight and convince the society. I don't know the outcome, but what I'm sure is that if we will start campaign, many of those who feel solidar will start to think, well, yes, we love European Union, we are happy to be there, we are very happy in our Western countries, in France, in Germany, maybe not in Spain, but in Sweden. But we understand that part of community is also having equal access, and they will also think about the other points of inequalities in European Union: healthcare system, education, labor market. And I really will repeat what I said in the first intervention. It's very good that we have difficult times. Otherwise, we will be still a sleepy, bored society, living quite comfy in a lower middle class environment. Now we have purposes to fight. We have enemies that are strong. Yes, they are strong, but we are stronger if we have strong enemies. We are smarter if the enemy is visible, and we are more determined. So it's not that bad. And it will be better. It will be better because we are succeeding. We are challenging, like in Poland, right-wing government, sometimes succeeding. Europe is challenging far-right, like in France. They challenged Marine Le Pen. Like I hope in Germany, all parties will challenge AfD. We are resisting and we are reshaping Europe. Let's hope that this battle will be not won by neoliberal mainstream, not but far-right, but by progressives. Finishing, I will give you a floor to give more energy to all of us, I guess.
Thank you, Barbara, for this positive apple. So now the floor is to you. Reinhard, you asked for a short intervention.
I can do it later, but I wanted to pick up the conversation about flexibility, but because I don't agree with what's been said.
Okay, so maybe you can integrate it in the answer round, because now I really would like to give the floor to you. Please introduce yourself shortly. Tell us where you're coming from. So I see questions up there. Do we have microphones to be brought up there?
Hi, Zlatko Simonovsky from Macedonia. Regarding the solidarity, I have a question for both of the panelists. Whether you see Europe united or detached from the solidarity with or without the Western Balkan countries, such as Macedonia, Serbia, Montenegro. Thank you.
Thank you. Question about Western Balkans. I have one more question here to the left.
My name is Tomasz Morozowski. I'm working at the Institute for Western Affairs in Poznań, in Poland. First of all, thank you very much for a very interesting first debate. And I just wanted to go back to the Europe of two-speed and just a very short comment and a question. So my thought was, should we really still discuss if there should be or shouldn't be Europe of two or multi-speed Europe? Because maybe we already experience it, as you also mentioned, or flexible Europe in many ways. First of all, some of the countries in the European Union are the member of the Eurozone, some are not. I think this is the best example of two-speed Europe already. But in this situation, I think it is also a bit of a point that Sir Bütikofer made, that it is not only up to the European Union's institutions who give instructions about how the multi or two-speed Europe should look like, but it's first of all up to the member states and also the smaller member states, let's say, like Poland, that are maybe not in the center, the decisions-making center right now. Do they want to be in there, or how do they place themselves in the EU? And it's not only in the hands of the governments, but also it lies in the societies, because, as you said, Polish society is still in favor of the EU. But on the other hand, I saw a research that showed that if Poland could not take in the immigrants, most of the people answered they would like to leave the EU if that was the condition. So I think that's a very important point. The question, if the countries, let's say, not being in the center of the EU right now, would like to be in there, and on which conditions. And my question would be if, like you said, either we all hang together or we hang separately. Can we hang together but not so close? Can it be a group of friends, equal friends, or should it be more a group of friends but with some leaders? If so, who are the leaders, and how should they give the rules or prepare the conditions for the other states to join the center? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had somebody there in the middle. Can you pass on the microphone?
Hi, I'm Piotr Działak from International Teacher Training College in Denmark. And I have a question. Why would you call EU a peaceful project? Why its many members wage wars, just to mention the destruction in Yugoslavia, the genocide in the Middle East, and the neocolonial plunder in the Global South? If you could discuss those.
So I see more male. There's a woman, please. Is there anybody on the right-hand side who also would like to speak? I see more hands there. Not yet.
My name is Sophie. I'm coming from Ukraine, and I have got the question for Barbara Nowacka. But first of all, I would love to thank you, both of you, for your comments. And my question concerns the future of EU. As we all know, I was actually wondered that you haven't commented Brexit. And with United Kingdom leaving the European Union, do you see that Poland might be the country which is going to step in right now, as it was already mentioned about the leaders of the EU? So does Poland has got this chance to step in as one of the leading countries in the European Union? And if yes, then with which kind of government? Because like right now we're seeing that the government is actually pro-European Union, but on the other hand, the reforms which are being held, they are a bit not that much within the values of the European Union. And if you see the opposition party, how this opposition party should look like, should the parties which are right now Nowacka or Platforma Obywatelska, which are like one of the most known opposition parties, should they somehow unite in order to protest? And like, I would love you to hear your comments on these two small questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I give the floor back to our panelists, and we will have a second round after that.
I will start with your question. First of all, with which government? For sure not with this one. Because if you have anti-EU government, you cannot be a leading force in EU. It's quite contradictory. Concerning opposition, well, opposition as such should work together if there are things that we believe together in. But at the moment we are hearing the discussion in Poland, sorry for those who are not following our politics that deeply, that opposition should unite now, no matter what kind of view you have, you should be at the moment declared that you were running together on the list. No way. I don't see the point why I should be at the moment declared to be a part of a conservative liberal agreement. None of us who is active politically would not exclude a situation that all opposition could run together, but when democratic system and freedom of elections will be in real danger. We have 2 years to go with this government. Elections will be held in 2019, and there is no purpose now to say that, yeah, we Social Democrats, Progressives, Greens will go together with neoliberals and conservatives because we share one value together and we are not sharing many others. What should be a part of unification? It should be unification not of the parties, but of the societies, of the communities that are living locally, and they should cooperate on local issues and local initiatives under the level of democracy, solidarity, and justice and equality. That would make more sense than political declarations 2 years before the elections. Political declarations 2 years before elections are usually pointless, stupid, and will just disappoint the society. Why I said, well, European Union gave us a piece on the territory of European Union. It was not perfect. And many European countries went to wars that we as progressive were opposing. Poland was also part of Iraqi war, which is one of the biggest shames of previous governments, that we were supporting the war that affected with what we have now with Syria war, crisis, refugee crisis, rise of terrorism and far right. One of the reasons that is happening now was the reason that also Polish government interfered in Iraq. But on the other hand, in our small environment, in the continent, in majority, well, not the whole continent, because we have conflict in Ukraine and we have Balkans, there were no wars for many years. It's not perfect. It could have been better. But from the perspective of what could happen for many years, I think it was better than we expected. And of course, we should criticize for many decisions that countries European countries taken. And we can criticize European Union of lack of effectiveness and lack of solidarity between governments. But still, having a perspective of living for hundreds of years between very difficult neighbors, as we had in history, we do appreciate the peace that we had. And what I believe that is a progressive role is to build European community also based on values, on assuring peace, not only on our lands, but everywhere. And European government to be much solider than it was in 2003 or earlier during the war in Yugoslavia.
Thank you. Reinhard, would you also take the question on the Balkans?
Yeah, I would start picking up the question from the person from Macedonia. I think the EU over the last 10 years has lacked attention and solidarity vis-à-vis the Balkans. And I really regret that President Juncker, when he took over as president of the new commission in 2014, said that during his tenure, during his 5 years, not a single country would be allowed to access the Union. Factually, I guess he was just about right, because none of the applicants were at a stage where they could really hope to move forward becoming a member within 5 years. But politically, ideologically, he was wrong, because what he said was understood as a signal saying, we don't want you, we don't need you, get off our back. And I think that contributed to a loss of hope. If I remember correctly, somebody from the Green Party in Macedonia, Dom, told me once that Macedonia is probably one of the European countries with the highest percentage of educated young people leaving the country because they don't see much of a hope. In 2001, Macedonia was at the same level as Croatia, both being candidates. Croatia is today a member, and nothing has moved with Macedonia. So clearly there has been negligence. More recently, though, I think there is some better understanding that we have come to a stage where to continue with that negligence would really endanger peace in the Balkans. We've seen that the conflicts, the political conflicts in Macedonia have been transfixed into ethnic conflict, which is very dangerous. We see that also in other countries. And more recently, when there was a crisis in Macedonia over the new government, I think the EU did play a positive role in facilitating that transition. So I hope we will be on a better trajectory in the future. As regards the two-speed, I would like to explain that I believe it's very important to differentiate between the idea of two-speed Europe and multi-speed Europe. Two-speed Europe accepts just two states of being. Either you are the core or you are the periphery. That's a hierarchical relationship. We don't want that. You don't want it, I don't want it. I don't know anybody in the progressive camp that would support that. But multi-speed Europe is not exactly the same. Multi-speed could mean that you are part of the Eurozone, but not necessarily of Schengen. You are part of the Eurozone, but you don't pursue the financial transaction tax. You are part of Schengen, but you don't want to harmonize the tax structure. I mean, we do have the flexibility, and I believe we need the concept of flexibility. If we want to get rid of that, then we only remain with two very dire alternatives. Either the slowest mover defines what can be done, and then there will be no progress on most of the important issues, or else we have to force everybody to march in lockstep. Both is not desirable. And I can give you a lot of examples where flexibility is positive. Labor market. The Danish labor market system is completely different from the German one. But I haven't seen Danish labor union people wishing to adopt the German system, nor the other way around. You can't dictate to countries. Ireland has a lower corporate tax rate than we have in Germany. I am in favor of allowing that because Ireland used to be one of the poorest regions in Europe. and allowing them, helping them to build their own economy is good. Of course, there should be a transition. This should not be forever. But I think this is helpful. Or Poland. A lot of people, even progressives, are telling me, don't expect Poland to accommodate a lot of refugees. I do remember that in the past, when it came to climate change policy, a couple of Western European countries accepted to carry a heavier burden just in order to allow Poland to join the effort, even though it was lagging behind. So flexibility can, of course, be misused, as you say, but we should use it in a progressive way that allows small countries to chart their own course. I believe that leadership is needed in the EU, but not from a hegemon, not from a single hegemon, not from two co-leaders. Leadership has to be an integrationist approach, and I said before that Poland should play a role, but also small countries can play a role. With regard to digitization, Estonia is a leader, and not the big countries. So I believe that flexibility on the basis of shared values, and I said a shared value should be a Europe that protects and a Europe that empowers. That, I think, is the way forward, because in a democracy, compromise is always the best way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. I know now we are getting really into the real discussion. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but since I promised you a second round, I give a couple of you the floor. I really ask you to be really brief, and then you and your answers very brief, because we will have to finish in 5 to 6 minutes. Please.
I'm Julia Karanosova from the University of Glasgow and Uniwersytet Jagiellonski, but I'm originally from Russia, if it matters. The question is, how come that the left has totally lost the support of youth in Poland, and why, in your opinion, the young people, the young generation, decided to cast their votes for Corwin or Cookies, who promoted conservative values, rather than for the left, who promoted liberal values and equality for all? And like, if you have time, also how you are going to regain them back. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I know I promised you. Here, the row. No, back, here. Sorry.
Thank you very much. My name is Eleonora Tafuro. I'm Italian, but I work at the Middle East Technical University in Ankara. I'd like to ask you to comment on the future of European conditionality and democracy promotion outside of the European borders. Do you think that the EU is nowadays too busy defending its core values among its own member states that it doesn't have any energies left to defend them abroad? Or is it a change in the international system what constrains Europe the most? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there's a lot of questions here still on the ground, but the good thing is we have 3 more days to discuss them all, and Reinhard will also be today in the afternoon with us in the workshops, so there will be more possibilities to discuss. I'm really sorry that I have to close the floor now. I will give it back to you. Also ask you to be really short in your answers, and please also take maybe the question about Brexit from the first round also in your comments. So we go maybe again with you, and then Reinhard will finish.
I got a very big question, so I will ask very briefly, and then I will give the floor to Reinhard. Answering your question, why young people are that they were voting far right? Well, first of all, religion in schools. Secondly, all identity crises that were only answered by right-wingers, and lack of stability and security. And the second part will be too long for this, but first of all, what is the first thing that we have to do as a left? Get rid of those who just labeled left and never were part of the left-wing movement.
Reinhard.
I can't answer on Brexit within one sentence, so I just give up there. But I try to answer on the issue of democracy promotion. I still am in favor of holding on to that agenda, but in a different way. I think today the main game should be civil societies supporting civil societies in building or upholding democracy. I don't believe that much into governments trying to tell governments of other countries how they should administer their democracies. I believe, however, that within the EU, we have a yardstick to which everybody has agreed, which is the Copenhagen criteria, and a government, a peace government that would apply to become a member of the European Union with these laws that they are trying to put into force would never be accepted. So I think we have to uphold among ourselves those standards. But with regard to countries outside the EU, I'm very much in favor of pursuing a democracy promotion in a different way, even more so since we are presently experiencing an international wave of authoritarianism that is spanning the globe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Reinhard. Thank you, Barbara, for your inspiring input. I think there was really a lot of food for thought and a lot of food for discussion for the next 3 days. Thank you very much for your questions, remarks, and take them with you. The ones who couldn't pose them, I'm really very sorry for that because time is running out, but there will be a lot of opportunities in the next 3 days to get into details of the discussion. Thank you and see you at the workshops.